Welcome to the No-Valo Round Table. I'm your host, Tulisile Mkiti. And in today's conversation, we will be talking about investing in the youth and doing so by breaking the cycle of poverty. In this episode, we discuss the true meaning of this, not just what you see on billboards or what you see in corporate reports, but really getting into the things when cameras are switched off and the textbooks are closed, what it means to invest in our youth. We will be doing a deep dive into how we are able to dismantle these barriers that stand between potential as well as opportunity. We're talking about how do we fully eradicate unemployment and, more importantly so, breaking the generational cycle of poverty that exists. In our conversation, we'll take a focus at our grade 12 learners and see what is it about this year that can potentially launch them into the future of their careers. I am joined in this episode by our CEO, Zanele Maduna, as well as Given Mahlangu, who is our Learner and Quality Assurance Coordinator within the business. This is going to be a fun episode that we're going to but really getting into the crux of things. And the episode will end with a different element of a game that we will play of what's hot or not in the skills development area of South Africa. Hi, and welcome to our second episode of the No-Valo Round Table. In today's conversation, we will be discussing investing in the youth. And I think it's such a critical time for us to have this conversation, especially with the grade 12s that have just finished their matric and also received their marks, but also for many young graduates that are just leaving university and about to start their careers in the place of work. My guest today is none other than the No-Valo CEO, Zanele Maduna. Hi, Zanele. How are you doing?
Hi, Tuli. Thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to our discussion.
Awesome. So I just want to know, firstly, as we go into this, a lot of people, organizations, in the politics spheres of the country talk about investing in the youth. What does this really mean for a young person sitting in rural South Africa, sitting in the township? Not in a reporting way, but the actual, what does it mean and what do they look for when they say, invest in me as the youth?
I think, truly, it's really all around looking at how do we equip the youth, and specifically with the skills that they would need to progress, right? So for a young person who is maybe in the villages, or even in the townships, as you can imagine, if they are looking into progressing in their career, they don't even know where to start, right? So the first thing would be to equip them so that they can transition from wherever they are into the next phase with the relevant skills. Yeah. And then, moreover, would have to look into access as well. Once they do have the relevant skills, how do we provide them with access to the market that they want to go into?
Right. Now, those are very important points. And at No-Valo, as we know, one of our values is community as well as collaboration. How then does providing a young person with these, putting a young person, we've heard people say that give them a seat at the table, or provide them with having a circle within their peers. How does that really represent a higher return on investment for that young person as compared to the traditional classroom education that we are often used to?
I think, truly, in order for us to tackle that, people would have to know what we do at No-Valo. So if you are joining us for the first time at No-Valo, we're an accredited skills development provider that specializes in study skills, psychosocial skills, as well as work readiness training. So that is completely different from the technical training that you get from universities, TVET, and other institutions as well. So it is very important to have that type of skill set, mainly because when you do have the soft skills, you get to a point where you are building your confidence, and when you are given these opportunities, you can actually show up for them as well.
So as you said, giving that background of that you are an accredited skills development provider, what does that mean? What does that look like? In what types of skills? When we talk about a young person who's just finished matric, what are the skills that No-Valo can provide to that person, or a graduate who's about to start their career? what are these skills that we have that can provide them to elevate them in their careers, essentially?
Yeah, I think, Tuli, what I've realized through my own journey, as well as with the young people that we serve, is that most of the times you don't know what you don't know. Right? Because if now you're a grade 12 learner and you're about to start in university, you're just thinking, oh my goodness, it's the big buildings and so many people, but you just don't know what you don't know. So, for example, when it comes to the transition from high school into university, some of the things we look into is that for that young person, how do they get to this space and accept living with that change? Because now you don't have your parent, you don't have your old friends, you don't have people who are actually, holding your hand anymore. So we help them with living with change, but then also even with simple things such as how do you manage your energy and manage yourself so that you can show up for your studies. And then when it comes to the ones that are leaving varsity, they think they know it all now. Too bad, you don't. So what we do when it comes to that, it's really all around how do you ensure that when you get to your new employment, you are effective and you are efficient and you are actually making your mark from the first day.
Yeah, I think that's so important because every chapter of a young person's life, or any person actually, is a transition. You're always transitioning into the next, whether it is from from preschool into primary, from primary into high school. And then it just becomes so much more important, I think, as now when you transition from high school into university, you're an adult. So unlike the transitions before, and you had all of these other people there with you, this transition that starts from grade 12 is yours and yours alone, essentially, because now you're an adult. And then again, I think when they get to university, going into the place of work, they think they have had it figured out because they've had this 3 or 4 years of independence and I'm already there. But then it's another shock to the system that comes to them that says, no, you don't have it all figured out. And I think we'll go even deeper into that, or some of the things that young people can really look at having, or even those that want to partner with us, organizations, to say to them, how do you better prepare your graduates that are coming in, your interns, your trainees, so that they can adapt much quicker and become essentially more efficient quicker. So as we park that one, I want us to have a quick conversation or just touch on No-Valo Foundation, something that I know that you are quite passionate about, and that's why you incorporated it into No-Valo Learning Centre. Zanele, we always say these things that there's no point. We can want to break the cycle of poverty through education that we provide at No-Valo. But if a young person is hungry and cannot even focus, what does that mean? And what does that really mean to somebody who says, I can't focus? And what impact does that do when you have something such as No-Valo Foundation that bridges that gap of a hungry young person so that they can be successful in the place of work or even at university?
No, definitely, Tuli. And I think with that, it's important to look at the core why of why we started such an initiative at No-Valo. So at the core of what we do at No-Valo, or rather our why, is around breaking the cycle of poverty through education, right? So as you did mention, we can't ignore a hungry stomach. And for us, this is not something we look at, oh, we are doing this, taking pictures and leaving. But also it's something that, for example, from my own experience, when I was in high school, I knew that even though you are going to a school whereby you don't have to pay fees, and yes, there is feeding scheme where you can get a meal during lunch, there is still the pressure of going home and looking at your parents and not knowing whether you're going to eat at night, right? So this is something that we acknowledge, that we know for sure that if someone, for example, you're in grade 12 and you have to now study for the rest of the night, if you get there and there's no food, that will impact your concentration, and thus it will also impact your results at the end. So what it means is that if I'm hungry for the rest of the year as I'm studying grade 12, then that will impact my results. So now I'll be getting less than a bachelor's pass. And then what it means is that now I'm going to be in the pool of the unemployed youth. And in a greater scheme, it also means that when it comes to the crime rate or even teenage pregnancy, all of these, like, it adds to everything else. So it's not really all about just giving one meal, but it's about really contributing to the future and really ensuring that throughput, when it comes to the talent, it can go ahead. Yeah.
And with that said, why does No-Valo Foundation not only just focus on the student when it comes to their project on hunger alleviation? Why does No-Valo Foundation then look at the whole family dynamic and says we will feed the family during that period and not just that particular individual?
Because truly, for us at No-Valo, even when you look at No-Valo Learning Centre, we do have psychosocial skills, right? So when it comes to how you relate with people, it starts in the home.
Yeah.
So if the mother, the brother, the father, if they are also okay and they are well fed, what it means is that it won't add to your stresses as well, right? Because as you can imagine, there are people who grew up in the homes whereby parents are always fighting about money. The mom is always angry at their dad because there's nothing to eat. So if we had supported the entire family, then there isn't this whole thing of like, oh, okay, now you are acting like this because you are getting the food at home. You don't know what we're dealing with. So in supporting the entire family, it's like we are giving them, that step so that during that period, they don't have to worry about the food, and even the student can feel, the warmth that they need from the family.
I think it's great work that the foundation does. We are going to take a short break and we'll be joined by another guest as we continue this conversation on investing in the youth. We are back after that short break, and with us now we have Given Mahlangu. Given is a member of No-Valo Learning Centre and he is the Learning and Quality Assurance Coordinator. Welcome, Given.
Thank you for having me, Tuli.
Awesome. So Given's joining us for this great conversation that we are having on investing in your youth. Given, I want to ask you, how has somebody in the past invested in you?
Somebody in the past that had invested in me was a former manager on the first workplace, as I was volunteering there. But at the first time, that's a person that introduced me in the space of facilitating and so on. So they trusted me. They gave me, after so many months of facilitating and volunteering, they gave me a chance to facilitate. And fortunately, at that time, I say fortunately because that day changed my life. That's why I'm here now. At that time, the CEO of the company was doing visits. So they entered in the class that I was facilitating. And in that class that I facilitated, it went so well that I also was amazed on how the outcome of the class was. And tomorrow when I came back to the office, I got my first contract. And that's how somebody has invested in me.
I love that. I really love that. And Zanele, on that, what does it mean to No-Valo Learning Centre to invest in the youth? Not only those who benefit from the programs at No-Valo, but from the staff also within No-Valo. What does it mean to give somebody that trust and, with a goal of that they should have a success story as Given has just shared?
It means everything to me because they say charity begins at home. So we can't be out there saying we can help you with your youth when we don't have the youth internally that we are helping. So currently at No-Valo, I think about 80% of the staff members, it is the youth, and most of them are still on their internship level or on their coordinator level. It means everything because, as Given has mentioned, if someone gives you that opportunity and takes a chance on you, then you also believe that you have it in you. So yeah, definitely, it means everything.
And continuing on with that, Given, because now you've had this experience as a facilitator as well, how have you seen, the impact of work readiness on young people?
It changes life, and it's an eye-opener, if I should say, because I would give you an example of where I came from. In school, the career that you should do is either becoming a doctor, a teacher, or working in a mine. And for me as well, I came into the space without knowing what is facilitation, what I can do. And I didn't know at that time that I have passion in changing lives. So being in spaces of work readiness where you are exposed to a lot of careers and a lot of ways that you can change your life, it's, as I said, it's an eye-opener. And then that means you get to find yourself and understand yourself, who you are, what are your strengths and weaknesses, and understanding that you can do better in your career as well. So yeah,
it's very true. Given speaks about Zanele, about finding out who you are and that self-discovery. And we know that No-Valo, for those who might not know, that you have accredited, work readiness programs. Can you speak to us a bit about those accredited work readiness programs and what the starting point is? Because I believe it's too similar to what Given has just said, that starting to know self as well.
No, definitely, because what we've realized over time is that most of the managers, as well as the leadership, when they are bringing in students in their workplace, they expect people to just show up, do their work, and be stars. But then they forget that when it comes to that transition from varsity into the workplace, the young people still didn't know what to expect, right? So as a result, when it comes to our programs, we have our signature work readiness skills, of which most of our clients really, really do love, because it's based on practically exposing the young people to, how the workplace looks like and them being ready from day one. And we also have an accreditation in work essential skills from the QCTO. But then beyond that, because those two programs are more of the long-term programs, longer programs. So beyond that, we have the boot camps, of which here, through boot camps and workshops, we do give our clients the opportunity to just look at what we can give you at No-Valo, right? So if you are an employer and usually you have an induction for your young people, this is where you can include us in your induction, and through us actually partnering with you in that induction, then we can look at things such as how do we give the young people an assessment so that they can know, the type of person they are and how they can best engage with the other people in the workplace. But then also equip them with, for example, communication skills. Because so many of the managers that we've spoken to still say, the students come in and they're still sending emails without subject lines. Or they'll say things like sending an email, just say, hi, Zanele, done, right? And not giving context. So when it comes to these training programs, we take it deeper. For example, on that business communication, we have the verbal communication, we have the non-verbal communication, and we also have written communication. But then the way we are so intentional with it, we even take it to the level of small talk. Because the young people come in the workplace and you as a manager or the leader, you're asking them about their day and you can see that they're shrinking and they don't even want to open up. So this is where we equip them with such skills so that, in like 3 months or 6 months, you can even be confident to send them out when it comes to them engaging with your other stakeholders as well.
So Given, with you having joined No-Valo recently, what was for you the first deep end experience that you had, and when you reflect on it today, how has that kept you also at No-Valo?
Okay, the deep end experience will be the leadership of No-Valo. I was saying the other day that sometimes you must remember that at workplace is a place where you spend most of your time at, and you need to be free at, but at the same time know and understand what you're contributing. Right. So as I was saying, the leadership of it is like they care personally and challenge directly, because with that is they remind you what you need to do and what is expected of you, but also they look into the challenges that as a human, what you get and what you experience as a human, and they offer a helping hand in that. And that's what has helped me at No-Valo, that says, look, this is my dream place of work, and I will remain here as long as it stays that same, because I think there's so much growth because of that leadership.
Say that again. There's something quite cool that you said. You said that they help you personally, but challenge you directly.
Yes, this is from radical candor experience.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So the concept of it is said, challenge directly, but caring personally.
Challenge directly, but caring personally. I think we need to put that up as one of our quotes.
Oh, for sure. And that book is amazing. I read that book last year on radical candor, and I love that at least we can show it in the workplace. I'm so glad. Yeah.
Because that's everything. Now, I love the fact that, we've talked about everything of investing in the youth and investing in young people, from the products and everything that is provided at No-Valo. To also just have a moment to take it back into the foundation space of the No-Valo Learning Centre. Unfortunately, in the dynamics of our country, the reality is that you have many young people who are also the breadwinners of their families, And I want to speak about, what does one opportunity for one person in the family do to possibly unlock a whole generation?
Yeah, truly. I don't even know where to start. Maybe because I myself have been a breadwinner, and I'm very careful with answering that question, because it's in two ways, right? So yes, you can have the first person as the breadwinner, and they are now getting income from getting an opportunity, and they can help others. But then what we've realized through what we do at No-Valo Learning Centre and No-Valo Foundation is that when it comes to that responsibility, also you need some sort of psychosocial skills training in taking on that responsibility. So in answering your question, I want to acknowledge the fact that yes, firstly, it does break that cycle, because you would have had an aunt, a mother, and everyone in your family who wasn't working. But then at the same time, in as much as you are the first one who's breaking the cycle, it doesn't mean that you now have to carry on everyone up until you even retire, right? So it means a lot, because now your family can say, hey, we have Given, who works at No-Valo Learning Centre in Randburg, and they've done all of these amazing things. And also you can be able to send something. But then at the same time, it's really important to actually expose the young people with their first salary to financial literacy, and to actually, having the skill set to be able to manage such dynamics, so that when they are helping their families, they can also help them in a manner that it's a lot more sustainable, but then it doesn't even get to a point whereby it's draining for them long term. And I'm saying this because for example, last year we spoke to so many of our partners, because we work with a lot of institutions, and most of them are talking about how from undergrad level, postgrad level, already the students are feeling the burden of carrying the entire family. So yes, it does mean a lot, but then if you are a young person also watching, remember, you need the financial literacy, and also from the psychosocial perspective, you need to know how to put measures in place so that it can work well long term. Yeah. But overall, obviously, it's a great thing that they're breaking the cycle of that poverty.
And then, Given, if you can share even from your personal experience, what does an opportunity given to you mean, not just to yourself, but to your family, to your community, to the greater society?
Look, I think for me, I would share an example that having gotten that opportunity to get employed after given a chance, that I was glad that I could assist my sister after she matriculated. I assisted her to enroll in TVET colleges, and I'm glad to say now that she is now completing her her will with a certain company where she is employed rather than, and she's getting paid. So giving me an opportunity was able to also giving me another opportunity to assist at home. So now we can say at home there's two breadwinners, if you can put it that way. So my sister's employed, I'm employed, and then that is coming from me getting an opportunity. Without that, I don't see any other way I could have assisted my sister in also getting education and getting employment.
I think, Zanele, you guys, what you're touching on, and also an element that sometimes we might often forget. And as we're talking about investing in the youth, yes, we can invest in the youth in the programs that we have. We can invest in the youth through the foundation and ensuring that people are not hungry. But you touch on such an important element, which has become a very talked about conversation, and that is the psychological support, the psychosocial element of things that is just as important, both for a young person as a student, but also for a young person who is starting out within the place of work. For you, what do you think are some of the key psychosocial skills that could really equip a young person who is starting out in the world of work?
Sure. I think top of mind, the first one would be resilience, learning to be a lot more resilient, right? So even from my own personal journey, I have learned that because when it comes to resilience, at the core of it all, it's all about how quickly do you bounce back from any challenge that you face, right? And what the studies have shown, and with most of the content that is out there, is that you can bounce back quicker if you have the right support system. Right? So that would be the first skill set that you need. And it really starts with you sitting down and auditing who is around me and looking at who is a friend that I can call when I'm having challenges. Or is there any other person who has progressed financially that I can go to and actually say, you know what, Zanele, now that I have my first allowance or my first salary, how do I navigate it? So yeah, the skill of resilience would definitely be top of mind.
Given, have you had to apply the skill of resilience in your life? And also, what does support look like for a young person?
Yes, to answer your question, yes, I have applied resilience. Through me going to get the opportunity that my former manager gave me. I think if I hadn't volunteered for like 8 months, I wasn't going to get to that opportunity because volunteering is not easy. So you need to take yourself to that workplace every day, and that costs money. And also, where does the money comes from? That's the support that I had. So to tell you, at that time, I was staying at my mom's cousin's place, and where they were supporting me with the place to stay and food, and with transport money was my mom. My mom at that time was not really working, but even coming to Gauteng, my mom didn't have that money to support me to come this day, but eventually she got it. I mean, even today she wouldn't tell me where she got it, but I'm glad she gave me that support, and her family came in through as well to support me. So yeah, that's how I was resilient and also got the support from the family. Support is just most of the time what you can offer at that time. Doesn't have to be monetary, even words of kindness is still support. Anything that you can offer. It doesn't have to be material things that you can always offer most of the time.
Yeah, and if I can add there as well, truly, I love what you said, given that you were given the opportunity and you showed up. Because I think that's a conversation we definitely have to have with the young people, because at times you do have certain opportunities that are offered to the young people, but then they don't fully show up for them. And I think through our content on social media, as well as within our No-Valo circles, that's what we are trying to push, to say, if there is a certain opportunity, how do you also fully show up for it? So that's a very important one.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I think it's such an important aspect of things to realize, because we're going to have young people right now who perhaps didn't make it into university, who might want to apply to TVET colleges, but it might be full. And you have young people who have graduated, and the jobs don't just come instantly, There is a waiting period, essentially. And when you're speaking about volunteering, because sometimes I think volunteering is something that can be overlooked, but there's such critical skills that are transferable that one can learn from volunteering. And also, not just the transferable skills, but you're putting yourself out there. You're allowing yourself to be seen, because had given not fully taken on that opportunity, we wouldn't now be talking to you right now.
True. True.
So I think it's such an important thing for young people to know that, yes, it's challenging, and we all understand that it's challenging to volunteer. As Given has said, you're putting your own money into this, you're not receiving anything. But there is knowledge gain and there is experience which you are getting from that could really set you up for the rest of your life.
Yeah, definitely. And if I can get in there, Given one of the days, I think my friend was popping in, and you were saying something to her, and then she was like, "Oh, it looks like Given has a lot of work experience." So it shows that even with the quality of work that you produce at No-Valo as well, it started somewhere, and it started with you betting on yourself and actually volunteering as well. So, in a greater scheme of things, it does pay off, and it even shows when you've put in the work.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Definitely. Now we are going to reach towards the end, and I want to ask you. Firstly, the first question is going to be towards a matric student right now. If you had a matric student that you could give words of advice as they go into a very stressful year currently, what words of advice would you share with them to better prepare them for what lies ahead after matric?
gentlemen first.
Switch things up at No-Valo.
First, you need to know that you're human and understand that you are going through it because of you are capable of dealing with it. And most of the time, we are overwhelmed by the pressures that is at home because of there is no food, there is no somebody that's working, and we get you as a student or as a learner in grade 12 that you are overlooking at everything. And that is a pressure to you towards you completing matric and stuff. But I need you to take that in to say, I can do it. No matter what comes, I will overcome it. So I've got this advice that says, God could never put you in a situation that He knows that you can never overcome it. So you are in that situation because of God is testing you, and then they know that you are going to overcome. And that's where resilience comes in. You just need to trust yourself and be strong, and you will overcome it. And then those challenges, they prepare you in the next step of your life. You'll be fully prepared, and you'll know how to challenge things going forward. And also, you will be able to advise people behind you or that are coming after you in order to overcome certain challenges as well.
And similarly to you, Zanele?
Sure. Given, I think when you spoke about resilience, one of the things I started thinking about is the relationship that most of the young people have with failure. What we've seen is that most of either the graduates or even the ones that are moving into university, they fear failure. They think if I fail that first test, it's the end of me. Or if I get into the workplace and my manager gives me a task and I can't do it, then that means I'm not enough, right? So I think firstly, just to add on that, try to build a healthy relationship with failure, because life is all about failing forward. But then that was just to add there. Lastly, on my side, Albert Einstein once said, if you judge the fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will spend its whole life thinking it's stupid. As you enter the new chapter, whether it is you moving from high school into varsity or you moving from varsity into the workplace, remember, you are a different person. Like, you have your unique fingerprint. So what it means is that you'll always find other things easy to do, or other things will also come naturally. So as you are walking this journey, pay attention. Pay attention to what you love doing, things that, give you some life as well, because it's through those clues where you will find your path. So just pay attention so that you are not that fish that will be judged on climbing a tree.
I love that. Pay attention even to your passions. And before we close out, because we're all about investing in the youth, if perhaps you are an organization, you are an HR manager, or you work with students in institutions, you might be asking yourself, how can I partner with the No-Valo to invest in my youth? Zanele, how can somebody partner with No-Valo to invest in their youth?
That's my favorite question. That's my favorite question in the world. I think firstly, everyone has to remember that when they partner with No-Valo, it's not about you just giving us money. It is all about you partnering with us in our big why of breaking the cycle of poverty through education. And how you can do that is by partnering with us either through our varsity student programs or through our unemployed youth programs or the new work entrant programs. So you can go to our website, www.no-valo.com, and find out more. But there, when it comes to our partners such as the Bursary funds, the scholarships, the higher learning institutions, we partner with you so that we can help you reduce the dropout rates within your cohorts. And we also help you when it comes to that throughput, because we know, especially when it comes to the Bursary fund managers, you do have that pressure from the funders when it comes to the ROI, when it comes to all of these young people that you are investing in. And then when it comes to the graduate recruiters as well, you can partner with us so that we can ensure that those young people that are coming into your organization, they are well prepared. I'm sure you're tired of the supervisors and managers saying, why did you bring us in Ntabiseng? Ntabiseng is great. Ntabiseng just has to be within our program so that we can help Ntabiseng with, the communication skills, how they show up and how they can help everyone else. And then lastly, when it comes to all the youth development agencies, we have our unemployed youth programs where we can hold hands and say, let's teach the young people about the CV skills, the interview skills, so that when they get there and they have their first interview, they can also feel confident and actually take on that opportunity.
Thank you so much to the both of you. I hope that out there you will partner with us. And if you are a young person, if you are the youth of today, follow No-Valo and find out more. Get insights into joining their circles and however ways that perhaps we could also help you just by following us and getting the best out of that opportunity. So we're going to be taking a quick break, but we have such an exciting part coming up because we're going to play a little game. The three of us, or the two of them, we will figure out who is playing the game and who's not. And the game is of what's hot or what's not at the moment. And I'm very excited. Do join us after the break. Now to our last segment of this episode that I'm so excited for. We're going to play a game. And I'm going to read out statements to you. And you need to say, do you think the statement is hot or it's not? But then you need to also follow up with telling us why you think the statement is hot or that it's not. Okay. So statement number 1 reads as follows. Tax incentives for companies that hire zero experienced youth, specifically from the gig economy. Is that hot or not? I'll read it again. Tax incentives for companies that hire zero experienced youth, specifically for the gig economy. Zanele, hot or not?
We started with tax incentives. No-Valo. Oh my goodness. I would say lukewarm.
It depends.
It depends. And the reason I'm saying that is because when it comes to hiring the youth, we already have the ETI, right? Where you're already getting a tax incentive for hiring. So we already have that. But then at the same time, I understand the reason why you would also get freelancers and the other people who are in between jobs. Because as an employer, at least you're not committing to permanent employment or to even a fixed-term contract, but rather you are able to get them in the door. So I'd say, actually, I'll go back to hot. Hot, because you're giving them experience when you are giving them that opportunity as well. Yeah.
Given?
I would like to say hot as well, because you are really contributing into investing in the youth, right? And put it that way. It's because now when you hire youth without experience, you're giving that experience at your own cost as well. And I think looking for a better word for it to say, the risk is with you, is within you. So yeah, so you'll be playing a huge role in it. So hard.
But I think we can't pass it without going back to what you just mentioned, the rest. That's why I was on the lukewarm side at first, because as you can imagine, as an employer, you've made a promise to everyone else outside when it comes to whatever you're going to deliver. So if you're bringing someone who is inexperienced, I think it's really all around what are you putting in place as well to support that young person. Because if, for example, I'm saying at No-Valo, we are going to bring in a video editor. Perhaps what we can do is give them a mentor or someone who can also show them, something, or rather help them and guide them when it comes to them delivering the output as well. So, yeah, hot and sometimes lukewarm.
From lukewarm to hot.
Speaking as a CEO.
Right. Our following statement reads, government-funded youth business grants that require a 50-page business plan from a 19-year-old with no internet access. Hot or not?
Please read it again.
Government-funded youth business grants that require a 50-page business plan from a 19-year-old with no internet access.
But yeah, because I'm thinking 19-year-old, really, no, not much of understanding or guidance into developing a business thing. I would say cold.
Called not.
Yes.
So Given says not.
Not hot.
It's not hot to be expecting this from a 19-year-old. Zanele?
Maybe I'm an accountant and I always answer with it depends, because it's not one way or the other. This is mainly because if you're going to give anyone funding, you have to know that this will be used towards this and it will have this other outcome, right? So as a result, I wouldn't say that they have to provide a 50-page business plan, but then rather we do need something in place to show that we can trust this person with funding. So, for example, especially for the youth out there that want to start the business, there is this tool called the business canvas. So, in you looking into the business canvas, you can summarize everything and submit it to show that you can run the business. But yeah, the 50-page is definitely excessive, and especially if you don't have internet as well.
Yeah.
Our next statement, maintaining the 30% pass mark for critical subjects to boost graduation statistics. Is that hot or not? Maintaining the 30% pass mark for critical subjects to boost graduation statistics. Hot or not?
I'd say not hot. Okay, what does it help with boosting? Because this is a question I'm having. What does it help with boosting the statistics of graduations rather than helping the children, the students themselves? Because with 30%, how likely are you gonna go into the varsity space and so forth? So I'm looking at it in that way. In some sense, not hot.
Not. Zanele?
I would say hot. I know everyone usually says not, but I would stand on hot, mainly because as you have different people, to my point earlier on, we all have different skill sets and we are all heading in different directions. So if you are a student and you are looking into being a physicist and a whichever one, you will work harder and pass that 30%. But if you are the type of person who maybe afterwards you want to get into carpentry and this doesn't really matter for you, then it's fine. At least you'll get that pass and you will leave. So it's not really around maintaining their graduation stats, but it's about not keeping people in a place where they don't even have to be because they're going on a different path.
Interesting. Our first not and hot together there. The next statement says, replacing one traditional subject with a mandatory digital literacy or freelancing subject. I will read again. Replacing one traditional subject with a mandatory digital literacy and freelancing subject?
I can go first. Okay. I would say hot. The reason why that is hot is because from the onset in high school, you need the students to have that independence and to know that afterwards, let's say I don't get a bursary and study in a higher learning institution, and then I end up just staying at home. At least during that time, I can, do maybe my little website if there is internet access, or I can even freelance in other ways as well. So definitely hot.
Yes, I would like to agree with that. It's definitely hard because now we're looking at, as from what you said from your previous statement, in opportunities are not the same. So you might want to be this, but then don't get there. But what else can you do? Not besides what you wanted to do at the first time. So I think that would be a hard because of it will give you more other opportunities to grow yourself. Put it that way.
All right. Our next statement is the sabbatical versus the survival year. The government providing a basic income grant specifically for grade 12s taking a gap year for community service. I will read it again. The sabbatical versus the survival year. The government providing a basic income grant specifically for grade 12s that are taking a gap year for community service.
Go with me, hot or not, for community service. So I know I can't say lukewarm, but
Yes.
then let me give my reasons first and then I'll end with either hot or not. Firstly, when it comes to the grants, the main problem with grants is that you don't want to create dependency for the young people, right? So that becomes an issue if it creates a dependency. But then on the other side, if you are incentivizing the youth to actually serve the community, then that also helps with the skills that we're talking about because they can have the interpersonal skills, they learn to show up for work as well and help others. So as a result, a grant, why did we call it a grant? I'm looking at the producer, why did we call it a grant? As a result, I'd say hot. And in concluding that, I would say, how I believe in other countries in the past, they would force the youth to go to the military before you do everything else. And that will teach them with the discipline and everything else. And as you can imagine, if someone is going into the military, they are actually helping the community. They are helping safeguard the nation as well. So with that being said, I would say definitely hot for now.
So I think if you say properly administered, then it will be a hot. Because if you look at how it will be administered, checking on how is it managed, and for sure, are you using that money for community service? Yes, then it's definitely hot.
Okay. The next statement, and we are closely nearing the end of our game, using the year after matric to enter a government-sponsored digital bootcamp instead of seeking a traditional university degree. Kevin, I'm going to start with you.
This one I'm going to say it's a hot because now you are going to learn a lot of things before going into university. Remember the struggles that we're having transitioning from high school into university. We have challenges of adapting and so forth. So maybe going into that before varsity can teach you a lot of things that you would be well prepared before into varsity.
I was told I have to move, so I'll be very close. Digital literacy bootcamp, that is.
Digital bootcamp, yes.
Digital bootcamp. I don't like the fact that we don't have lukewarm, but I would say it is hot depending on the fact that it is not compulsory for everyone. If it is a choice that certain people can take the digital literacy bootcamp for a year instead of going to varsity, definitely hot. But then if it's compulsory for everyone, it might be pointless for other people who don't really care much about that, and they want to maybe get into psychology, the human mind, and later on they can collaborate with people who are better with the digital skills as well.
Okay. Moving away from a one-to-many lectures to a many-to-many peer mentorship groups. Is this hot or not? Moving away from one-to-many lectures to many-to-many peer mentorship groups. Zanele? Hot
I love that.
or not?
I love that. Mainly because at No-Valo, this forms part of our methodology at No-Valo. At No-Valo, for almost every other course, we always have breakaway rooms, breakaway discussions where the peers can mentor each other. So definitely, because now, with the times we are in, this is 2026, we're in a position whereby whatever the lecturer can say, you can get it on YouTube, you can get it somewhere else. So I think there is an opportunity to structure the curriculum in such a way that it can lean more into the students teaching each other instead of having that dependency and reliance on, oh, the lecturer knows it all. Because when that is done, then you can get to a point whereby the lecturer can advise at a later stage and can steer the students in the right direction instead of students thinking, I'm going to sit here and the lecturer is going to tell me everything. So definitely a hot.
I agree, definitely hot. We learn from one another as well, and we could understand things differently. And if it is explained by my peer, the way they understand it, also coming to me, it will be more clearer than as I've heard it from a lecturer. So that's why I think definitely it will be a hot.
That makes me think 2K to 2K instead of 1K to 2K explanation. And last but certainly not least, our last statement reads, family-centric support. Spending budget on feeding the family of a learner rather than just giving the learner a textbook. I'll read that again. Spending budget on feeding the family of the learner rather than giving the learner a textbook. Is this hot or not? Kevin, I'm going to start with you for our final one.
Yes, I think it's a hot because now, remember, the pressures comes with what's going on in the family. And if you alone, you are sorted as a student, but then when you go back at home, there's this challenge of that and that, like there's no food. It will come back to you to say, hey, I have a textbook, yes, but then also you have the pressures of what's going on at home and all that. So it will definitely have a toll on you as a student. So supporting the family together with the student at the same time with food, I think that would be hard.
I would like to say not against I would like to say not against the question, because when it comes to, I don't like the question. The reason why I don't like the question is because when it comes to the public schools, the government does provide budget for the textbooks as well as for the feeding scheme. So when it comes to our constitution and everything that is happening in the basic education space, already, I know when it comes to the villages, that can be a challenge as well, but then already there is a provision in the budget for textbooks as well as feeding the child. So when it comes to providing the meal for the entire family, the reason I'm against the question is mainly because of the fact that it depends on a lot of things, right? Because you can't just provide the groceries to the family and then now it creates that dependency, but you need to look into a sustainable way to partner with the family so that long term it can help the family as a whole. So for example, at No-Valo Learning Centre, or rather at No-Valo Foundation, for 2026, we are looking into gardens, right? Partnering with schools so that we can help them with the gardens, and also giving our beneficiaries the seedlings as well. Because if we do that, then we teach the beneficiaries and the families to learn the skill of, harvesting and actually planting and taking care of themselves instead of them always coming back for the grocery. And now they're in a position where they say, it's fine, you don't have to have a textbook, but we can have food. So not against the question, because the question doesn't really fit in when it comes to the reality we have at the moment.
Okay. So with our closing our game and having a difference of opinion, I think that is such a critical lesson, is that we can still be in conversation, but not always necessarily agree on things. Thank you so much for joining us for our No-Valo Round Table episode 2, where we were discussing the investment into the youth. Thank you so much for joining us in today's episode, our second episode of the No-Valo Round Table podcast. In the episode that we had today, we had such a fun discussion, and one that was so informative around investing in your youth and breaking the cycle of poverty. Join us again for the next session of the No-Valo Round Table.